Good morning, I'm Matt Scooby. Welcome to Inside CTV News Channel. Thanks for being with us this morning. Let's begin with a live look at the U.S. Capitol, where the U.S. government shut down overnight after Senate Democrats refused to back a Republican funding agreement that would have kept the government running. Now, the shutdown, the first since 2018, will impact a number of U.S. government agencies. Some critical services will continue, but thousands of federal workers will not get paid until the shutdown ends. Now, some will still have to work without pay, while others will be furloughed. Democrats and Republicans are blaming each other for the impasse.
This is ready to pass right now. This keeps the government open. This funds the government and protects federal workers and the American people from the hostage taking that has become, evidently, now the Democrat norm.
All they want to do is force us, try to bully us. They're not going to succeed into taking their partisan bill, take it or leave it. That is not how this place works.
Now, the U.S. government shutdown could have an impact on Canadians as well. With many government agencies frozen, Canadian travelers can expect longer lines and delays at airports, along with land border crossings, too. The U.S. Homeland Security Department also says tariffs will continue being collected. We're going to have more on that in a second, but for now, Eric Ham is with us, CTV News U.S. political analyst. Eric, it felt like all roads were leading to this, especially in the last couple of days, and the rhetoric that was there. Surprised at all, or not really, that we have actually reached this point?
No, not at all. In fact, we know that Speaker Mike Johnson actually did not even convene Congress. So many of his own caucus members are not even in Washington. So if there was an agreement that had come at the 11th hour, there would not have been enough members to bring a quorum to the House to actually pass the funding bill. So clearly what we saw here were both sides were dug in. And what this speaks to is just the deep levels of polarization that we're seeing on both sides, so hardened. And now it's anyone's guess if, in fact, these two sides can come together to actually come to an agreement on actually getting the government back open, now that millions of government workers will not be receiving paychecks.
Yeah, and it really is the question, too, and we talk about how long this is going to last. Now, Donald Trump, in his first term as president of the U.S., oversaw one of the longest shutdowns, in many, many decades, at least in the last little bit. But this one in particular, too, it's the Democrats who have always, and typically don't like to get to this point. They don't want to be shutting government down, but this time you mentioned it, digging their heels in.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, if you go back to March, when many thought that Chuck Schumer caved to a spending bill, and he was blasted for that. In fact, there's been growing concern that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to primary him. And that's one of the reasons why many believe that he is so dug in now. He's concerned about his left flank. And so what we're seeing right now is Democrats are fighting, and they're fighting because we know at the end of the year, these very crucial tax subsidies for health care are going to come to an end, and that's going to make it difficult for many of the most vulnerable Americans to be able to receive health care. In fact, it's expected that as many as 10 million people in the United States can lose their health care. And so what Democrats are asking for is for Republicans to meet them halfway to be able to help Americans not lose their health care. It's anyone's guess what will happen right now, but what we're seeing is this is going to be a massive, massive battle. And Republicans believe that Democrats simply don't have the spine for this fight, so they expect Democrats to cave very quickly and this to be a very short-lived shutdown.
Yeah, you touched on clearly, I think, that the huge issue, which is Obamacare and those subsidies coming to an end at the end of the year. But Donald Trump is trying to, it sounds like, in what I was reading at least a little bit, trying to use this shutdown in order to possibly fire some federal workers. It's not just furlough, not just temporary layoffs, but just expand on that a little bit for the audience, if you could.
Yeah, this has been a negotiating tactic that the Trump administration used. In fact, it was his OMB director who said that, we could actually use this as an opportunity to actually cut more waste and fat in government. And Donald Trump has been saying that over and over in the lead up to this shutdown. Now, here's something interesting that we know is going to happen. Not only at midnight, the stroke of 12, was the government shutdown going to actually take place, but many as 100,000 government workers were also coming off the rolls. And these are people who were the victims of those DOGE cuts, people who took government buyouts, and those buyouts were going to end at the stroke of midnight last night. So in addition to that, we know 100,000 workers are no longer on the government payroll. So those are now also workers that are off the government payroll, and now the Trump administration will look to see if, in fact, they can cut more, and will the Democrats actually acquiesce to that and somehow find a way to get the government back open. We just don't know how this is going to play out.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns. We're going to keep a close eye on it. Eric Ham, CTV News U.S. political analyst. Thanks for this, Eric. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.